"Please, be quick," said the millionaire CEO. The single father froze, then did the unthinkable. The late afternoon sun filtered through the tall windows of the Mel Brock Hotel's marble lobby, casting geometric shadows across the polished floor. Ryan Walker pushed his cleaning cart methodically, yellow gloves contrasting sharply against the blue of his maintenance uniform. His movements were practiced, efficient, the kind of economy that comes from doing the same job well for 3 years. He'd learned to find dignity in work that others dismissed. There was satisfaction in transforming chaos into order, in leaving each space better than he'd found it. His Harley-Davidson motorcycle waited in the employee lot, that beautiful blue machine he'd restored himself, bolt by bolt. Later, after his shift, he'd take it apart again, searching for that one persistent rattle that only he seemed to hear. The phone in his pocket vibrated. Ryan frowned. Personal calls during work hours were rare. Hannah's school had his number for emergencies, but it was barely 3 o'clock. She wouldn't be out for another hour. The name on the screen made him pause. Celeste Davenport. The CEO never called maintenance staff directly. There were supervisors, department heads, entire layers of management between her corner office on the 12th floor and his supply closet in the basement. "Hello?" Ryan answered, professional despite his confusion. "Ryan?" Her voice was wrong. Tight, strained. Nothing like the composed executive tone he'd heard during the monthly all-staff meetings. "I need you to come to my house. Now. Please. Ms. Davenport, I'm on shift until—" "Please." The word cracked. "I can't. I need help. I need you specifically. Please, Ryan." Something in that desperate plea bypassed every logical objection. "Where?" She gave him an address in Harbor Heights, the exclusive neighborhood that overlooked the Pacific. "The gate code is 1847. Hurry." The line went dead. Ryan stood motionless in the middle of the lobby, his mind racing. This violated every protocol. Leaving during a shift, going to the CEO's private residence, the sheer irregularity of her calling him directly. But that voice, that fear. He stripped off his gloves, left his cart by the elevator and headed for the stairs. The ride to Harbor Heights took 12 minutes on the Harley. Ryan didn't push it. Speeding would help no one. But his mind churned through possibilities. Medical emergency? Security threat? Why call a janitor instead of 911? The gate opened to the code she'd given. The driveway wound through manicured gardens toward a modern glass and stone mansion that seemed to hover above the coastline. Ocean view. Probably $8 million minimum. Maybe 12. Ryan killed the engine and dismounted. In the sudden silence, he could hear waves crashing against rocks far below. The front door was ajar. "Ms. Davenport?" He stepped inside, his work boots loud on marble. "It's Ryan Walker, you called me." No response. The interior was stunning in its minimalism. White walls, huge windows, expensive furniture arranged with mathematical precision. Everything perfect. Everything cold. "Ms. Davenport?" A sound from the left. A gasping sob. Ryan followed it to a study lined with bookshelves. Celeste Davenport sat crumpled on the floor beside a glass desk, knees pulled to her chest. Her signature royal blue blazer was discarded on a chair. Her hair, usually styled perfectly, fell loose around her face. Mascara streaked her cheeks. She looked up as he entered, her blue eyes wide with something beyond fear. Panic. Pure, animal panic. "I can't breathe," she whispered. "I can't, Ryan, I can't." He'd seen this before. Different context, same symptoms. "You're having a panic attack," Ryan said calmly, kneeling beside her but not touching. "You can breathe. Your body's lying to you right now, but you can breathe. Look at me." She shook her head violently. "Celeste." He used her first name without thinking. "Look at me, right at my eyes, don't look away." Her gaze locked onto his. "Good. Now breathe with me. In for 4 counts." He inhaled slowly, maintaining eye contact. "Hold for 4. He held. Out for 6. He exhaled. Again. "With me." For several minutes they breathed together. Gradually the terror in her eyes dimmed. Her shoulders lowered. Color returned to her face. "That's it," Ryan said quietly. "You're doing it. Keep going." He'd learned this technique sitting in a therapist's office with Hannah, watching his 7-year-old daughter struggle with fears she couldn't articulate. The therapist had explained that panic attacks hijacked the rational brain, that you couldn't logic your way out. You had to work through the body first, calming the physical symptoms before the mind would follow. Celeste's hands were still shaking. Ryan noticed they were clasped so tightly her knuckles had gone white. "Try to release your hands," he said gently. "Tension feeds the cycle. Let them relax." She did, slowly, fingers uncurling. Her palms were marked with crescent-shaped indentations from her nails. Good. You're doing really well. Ryan kept his voice steady, calm. The worst is over. Your body just needs to catch up to that fact. Keep breathing. Another few minutes passed. The trembling subsided. Celeste's breathing settled into a more natural rhythm. When her breathing finally steadied, she closed her eyes. I'm sorry. God, I'm so sorry. I don't know why I called you. I shouldn't have. This is so inappropriate. Why did you call me? Ryan asked. Celeste opened her eyes. They were clearer now, more focused. I don't know. When it started, when I couldn't breathe, I thought of you. Your voice from the staff meeting last month. You asked about extending health coverage to part-time employees. Everyone else was talking about profit margins, and you were the only one who seemed real. The only one who sounded like an actual person. Ryan absorbed this. Have you had panic attacks before? Not like this. Not in years. She drew a shaky breath. Not since. Her gaze shifted to the glass desk. Ryan followed her eyes. An old photograph lay on the surface, slightly faded. 2 teenagers on a beach. A girl around 14 with sun-bleached hair, and a boy around 18 with an easy smile. They stood close, shoulders touching, both looking directly at the camera with the unself-conscious happiness of youth. Recognition hit Ryan like cold water. That's you, he said slowly. That's us. Celeste nodded, tears spilling over again. Clearwater Beach 10 years ago. I found it today going through old storage boxes. I hadn't thought about that summer and she couldn't finish. Ryan couldn't move. Memories flooded back with devastating clarity. That summer. God, that summer. He'd been 18, working 2 jobs to save for community college. His father had just died, leaving debts. Ryan had taken a 3rd job as a beach vendor, selling cold drinks to tourists. She'd been 14, there with her family. Wealthy even then, but somehow separate from them. They'd started talking one afternoon when she bought a Coke. He'd made her laugh with some stupid joke. She came back the next day and the next. For 3 weeks they'd met at the same spot every afternoon. She never told him her last name. He never told her about the mounting bills. They just existed together, talking about everything and nothing, books, dreams, the shape of clouds. I thought about you for years, Celeste whispered. After we left. I didn't have your number, didn't know your last name. Just Ryan from the beach who sold overpriced drinks and made terrible puns. They weren't terrible, Ryan said automatically. They were classically structured. A wet laugh escaped her. There. That. God, I'd forgotten that specific brand of stubbornness. Your family left suddenly, Ryan said, the memory still sharp. One day you were there, the next. My grandfather died. We flew back for the funeral. By the time we returned to Clearwater, your stand was empty. Season was over. She wiped her eyes. I went back the next summer, and the summer after that. You were never there. I was at community college, then state school, working night shifts. Ryan stared at the photograph. I looked for you too. First summer. But Clearwater has thousands of tourists every year. I didn't even know which hotel you'd stayed at. Silence stretched between them, heavy with the weight of lost years. When did you realize? Celeste asked finally. When you started working at Mel Brook. Did you know it was me? No. Ryan shook his head. Your nameplate says C. Davenport. The staff newsletter shows you in business attire. Professional photos. I never connected you to the girl from the beach. You were just the CEO. Untouchable, living in a different universe. And you were just the quiet janitor who asked good questions. She laughed bitterly. I walked past you dozens of times. Dozens. Never looked twice, just another employee. To be fair, I didn't look like this 10 years ago. Ryan gestured to himself. I was skinny, all elbows. You've changed too. Grown up, hardened, she corrected. That's the word you're looking for. Ryan studied her, really looked at her for the first time as something other than his employer. The royal blue blazer discarded on the chair, jean shorts beneath, expensive but casual, tan skin from hours in the sun, bare feet with polished nails. She'd been in the middle of something normal when the panic attack hit. Something human. What triggered it? He asked. The panic attack. Was it just finding the photo? Celeste's expression shifted. Partly, but also. She hesitated. There's something about that summer I never told you. Something I've never told anyone. The air in the study seemed to thicken. You don't have to, Ryan started. I was supposed to die that summer. The words hung in the air like a physical presence. Ryan stared at her. What? I had leukemia. Celeste's voice was flat, clinical. Acute lymphoblastic leukemia. Diagnosed when I was 12. Aggressive treatment for 18 months. Chemotherapy, radiation, bone marrow transplant. By that summer, I was in remission, but the prognosis was uncertain. Doctors gave me a 70% chance of relapse within 5 years. Ryan felt like the floor had dropped away. You never said. I was 14 and sick of being the girl with cancer. When I met you at the beach, you didn't look at me like I was fragile. You didn't treat me like I might shatter. You just saw me. Normal. Whole. It was the only time in 2 years that I felt like myself. Jesus, Celeste. I didn't relapse. She continued. Made it past the 5-year mark. Then 10. I'm clear now. Fully recovered. But every year around this time, anniversary of my diagnosis, I get this feeling. Like the walls are closing in. Like I'm running out of time even though all my scans are perfect. Ryan understood now. The panic attack. The desperate phone call. The photograph. That summer wasn't just a vacation for you, he said slowly. It was my life, she finished. The only part of that whole nightmare where I got to be just Celeste. Not the sick girl. Not the heiress. Not the one everyone whispered about. Just me. And you were the only person who knew that version. The sunset painted the study in shades of gold and amber. Outside, the ocean continued its eternal rhythm. What happened after? Ryan asked. After the funeral. After Clearwater. Celeste leaned back against the desk. High school was hell. Private school. Everyone knew about the cancer. Guys either treated me like I was made of glass or avoided me completely. I threw myself into academics. Got into Stanford at 16. Graduated early. MBA at 20. My father died of a heart attack when I was 22. I inherited the hotel. Married someone appropriate 6 months later. Divorced him 18 months after that. Why'd you marry him? Thought it would make me feel less alone. She smiled without humor. It didn't. Ryan thought about his own trajectory. I worked through college. Got a degree in philosophy, if you can believe it. Planned to teach. Then I met someone. Got married young. Really young. Had Hannah. He paused. Her mother left when Hannah was 6 months old. Couldn't handle being a parent, I guess. Needed to find herself. So it's been me and Hannah ever since. Philosophy, Celeste said softly. Of course you studied philosophy. You always asked the questions that made me think. Pays terribly, Ryan admitted. Teaching positions dried up. Adjunct work barely covers rent. So I took the maintenance job at Mel Brock 3 years ago. It's stable. Good health insurance. Lets me be home when Hannah gets out of school. You're not just a janitor, Celeste said. Actually, I am. Ryan met her eyes. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's honest work. I keep places clean and functional. That matters. I didn't mean, she faltered. I'm sorry, that came out wrong. It's okay. Ryan stood, stretching his legs. Most people make assumptions. The uniform makes me invisible, which is fine. Gives me time to think. What do you think about? Celeste asked. While you're working? Ryan considered the question. Depends on the day. Sometimes I work through philosophical problems. Thought experiments. The trolley problem but applied to real situations. Sometimes I think about Hannah. What she needs. What I'm missing. Whether I'm screwing her up irreparably. He smiled slightly. Sometimes I just think about whether I remembered to buy milk. The profound and the mundane, Celeste observed. That's life, isn't it? Kant and grocery lists. Existential dread and parent-teacher conferences. Do you miss teaching? The academic world? Sometimes. I miss the conversations. The intellectual sparring. But academia has its own bullshit. Politics, ego wars, publisher-parish pressure. Ryan shrugged. I'm not sure I would have been happy there long term. Too much performance, not enough substance. And maintenance work has substance? More than you'd think. Ryan's voice was earnest now. Every job I do affects someone directly. Clean floors mean fewer slip hazards. Fixed elevators mean elderly guests can access their rooms. Working bathrooms mean basic human dignity. It's not abstract. It's immediate impact on real people's lives. Celeste studied him with something like wonder. You've really found peace with it. I've found purpose in it. That's different from settling. I'm not resigned to this job. I'm engaged with it. There's dignity in doing necessary work well. Celeste rose as well. Steadier now. Thank you for coming. For helping. I shouldn't have called you like that. It was unprofessional. Humans aren't professional, Ryan said. We just pretend to be during business hours. A genuine smile crossed her face. The first real one he'd seen. It transformed her completely, erasing the CEO mask. For a moment, she looked exactly like the girl from the photograph. Would you? Celeste hesitated. Would you like some coffee? I feel like I owe you more than just a thank you for abandoning your shift and racing over here on your motorcycle. Ryan checked his watch. 4:30. His shift officially ended at 5, but he'd left early. Hannah's after-school program ran until 6. Coffee would be good. They moved to the kitchen, sleek, modern, barely used. Celeste operated an espresso machine that probably cost more than Ryan's motorcycle. Tell me about Hannah, she said as the machine hissed and gurgled. Your daughter. Ryan's face softened. She's 7. Sharp as hell. Asks questions constantly. Currently convinced she's going to be a marine biologist, a dancer, and an astronaut simultaneously. I like her already. She's the best thing I've ever done. Ryan accepted the cup Celeste handed him. Everything else, the job, the degrees, the failed marriage, doesn't matter compared to being her dad. That's the work that counts. Celeste leaned against the counter, cradling her own cup. Do you regret it? The philosophy degree? Working as maintenance? Never. Ryan's answer was immediate. Philosophy taught me how to think. The job pays my bills and lets me be present for my daughter. Everything serves a purpose. Happiness isn't about the title on your business card. I wish I believed that. You don't? Celeste stared into her coffee. I run a company worth $200 million. I employ 300 people. I make decisions that affect families, careers, futures. And most days I feel... She stopped. Empty. Ryan finished quietly. She nodded. That's not about your job, he said. That's about connection, community, purpose beyond profit margins. Spoken like a true philosophy major. Spoken like someone who's been there. Ryan set down his cup. After my wife left, I spent 6 months walking through life like a ghost. I had Hannah. I had responsibilities, but inside I felt nothing. Just hollow. It wasn't until I started focusing on the immediate, the tangible, changing diapers, making breakfast, fixing my motorcycle, that I remembered what it felt like to be real. The immediate and tangible, Celeste repeated. Like cleaning floors? Like cleaning floors. They drank their coffee in comfortable silence. Through the kitchen windows, the sun sank toward the horizon, painting the sky in layered shades of pink and orange. This is strange, Celeste said eventually. Sitting in my kitchen with the janitor from my hotel, drinking coffee and talking about existential emptiness. My board of directors would be horrified. Your board of directors aren't here. No, they're not. She studied him over the rim of her cup. You're different than I remember. More settled, grounded. 10 years and a kid will do that. Ryan smiled. You're different too. Sharper, more guarded. Also 10 years in reality. Fair enough. He checked his watch again. 5:15. I should go. Pick up Hannah. Disappointment flickered across Celeste's face, quickly masked. Of course. Thank you again for everything. Ryan moved toward the door, then paused. Can I ask you something? Anything? Why did finding that photograph hit you so hard today? It's not just the anniversary of your diagnosis. There's something else. Celeste was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was barely audible. Because I realized that the girl in that picture is the only version of myself I've ever really liked. And she died 10 years ago when we left Clearwater. I've been pretending to be someone else ever since. The words struck Ryan with their raw honesty. She didn't die, he said firmly. She just got buried under expectations and roles and survival instincts. But she's still there. I saw her today. When? When you laughed. At my terrible pun. Ryan smiled. Same laugh. Exactly the same. Tears welled in Celeste's eyes again. I don't know how to be her anymore. Maybe you don't have to be her exactly. Maybe you just have to remember what it felt like to be real, to exist without performing. Ryan hesitated, then made a decision. Tomorrow, after your work, come to Hanson's Beach. It's public, anonymous. Bring casual clothes. We'll walk and talk. No roles, no titles. Just two people who knew each other once, remembering what that felt like. Ryan, no obligations, he said quickly. If you don't show, I'll understand. But the invitation stands. Celeste nodded slowly. What time? 6:30. By the north parking lot. Okay. The word was barely a whisper. Okay. Ryan rode his Harley through the evening traffic, his mind spinning. The last hour felt surreal, like stepping through a door into the past and finding it completely rearranged. Celeste Davenport, the CEO he'd barely registered, the girl from the beach he'd never forgotten. They were the same person, and she'd called him in her moment of crisis. Not her ex-husband, not a friend or family member. Him. Why? Hannah was waiting at the after-school program, sitting cross-legged on the floor with a book about ocean life. She looked up as Ryan entered, her face brightening. "Dad, did you know octopuses have 3 hearts?" "I did not know that." Ryan knelt down. "Ready to go?" "Yep." She gathered her things efficiently. "Can we get tacos?" "Sure." As they walked to the motorcycle, Hannah chattering about marine biology, Ryan felt the familiar weight of single parenthood settle over him. Good weight. Meaningful weight. But underneath it, something new stirred. A possibility. A connection resurfacing after 10 years underwater. At home, while Hannah tackled homework at the kitchen table, Ryan changed out of his uniform. His phone buzzed with a text from his supervisor at the hotel. "Where did you go this afternoon? Need to discuss your departure." Ryan stared at the message. He'd left mid-shift without explanation. That was grounds for formal disciplinary action, possibly termination. But Celeste had needed help. Had called him specifically. What was he supposed to have done? Ignored her? He typed a response. "Family emergency. Will explain tomorrow." Not quite true, but not quite false either. Hannah looked up from her math homework. "Dad, are you okay? You seem weird." "Just tired, sweetheart." "Was work hard today?" "Different," Ryan said. Work was different today. The next morning, Ryan reported to his supervisor's office expecting the worst. Instead, he found a note stating the afternoon absence had been approved retroactively by executive order. No explanation, no questions. Celeste's doing, obviously. Ryan wasn't sure how to feel about that. Grateful, uncomfortable. The casual exercise of power, even in his favor, felt wrong somehow. The day crawled by. Every time his phone buzzed, Ryan expected a cancellation text, but none came. At 6 o'clock, he finished his shift, changed in the locker room, and rode his Harley to Hanson's Beach. The northern parking lot was nearly empty at this hour. Just a few surfers loading boards onto cars. 6:30 came. 6:40. 6:50. Ryan sat on his motorcycle watching the sun descend toward the water. He wasn't disappointed exactly. He'd half expected her not to show. Their worlds were too different. That moment yesterday had been an aberration. Crisis forcing connection. At 7, a white Tesla pulled into the lot. Celeste emerged wearing clothes Ryan had never seen on her. Faded jeans, a simple gray t-shirt, white sneakers. Her hair was pulled back in a ponytail. No makeup. No jewelry. She looked younger. Uncertain. "Sorry I'm late," she said as she approached. I couldn't decide if this was the stupidest idea I've ever had. And? Still deciding. But she was smiling. They walked down to the beach. The sand was cool beneath their feet. Waves rolled in with rhythmic consistency. "How was your day?" Ryan asked. Such a mundane question it felt almost absurd. "Long, boring, the usual meetings about quarterly projections and occupancy rates." Celeste kicked at the sand. "How was yours?" "Similar. Bathrooms, carpets, broken elevator on the 3rd floor. Glamorous. Extremely." They walked in silence for a few minutes. Other beachgoers passed, a couple holding hands, a man throwing a tennis ball for his dog. "This is weird," Celeste said finally. "Right? This is objectively weird. Definitely weird," Ryan agreed. The CEO and the janitor, having a casual beach walk. Your board would lose their minds. They would. She glanced at him. "Do you care? About your board's opinion?" "Not remotely." "About," she gestured vaguely, "the optics, the difference in our positions." Ryan stopped walking. "I care about having a conversation with someone who actually listens. Someone who doesn't just wait for their turn to talk. Everything else, titles, tax brackets, corner offices, that's just noise." Celeste studied him. "You really believe that?" "I do." "How?" The question was genuine, searching. "How do you just not care about what people think?" "Practice," Ryan said, "and realizing that most people aren't thinking about you at all. They're too busy worrying about what other people think of them. It's a closed loop of meaningless anxiety. Philosopher-janitor, janitor-philosopher. The order matters." That earned a genuine laugh. They resumed walking. "Tell me about your marriage," Celeste said. "You mentioned your ex-wife left. Do you ever hear from her?" "Christmas cards. Occasional emails asking about Hannah." Ryan's voice was neutral. "She's in Oregon now. Married again. Has another kid. I think she's happy. Do you resent her?" "I did. For a while. Leaving felt like she was saying Hannah and I weren't enough, that we weren't worth staying for." He watched the waves. "But eventually I realized she wasn't leaving us. She was leaving herself. The version of herself she couldn't stand being. Motherhood. Marriage. routine. It suffocated something in her. And you can't force someone to want the life you're offering. That's very mature. That's very therapy. Ryan smiled. Also time. Distance. Recognizing that Hannah is better off with one present parent than two people who resent each other. Celeste was quiet for a moment. My ex-husband, Douglas, was appropriate. That's the word my father used before he died. Douglas is appropriate. Right family, right connections, right attitude. We dated for 4 months, got engaged at a charity gala, married at a vineyard in Napa. Sounds romantic, Ryan said dryly. It was empty. Every word scripted. Every moment performed for an audience. The wedding photos are beautiful. We look happy. But I remember standing at the altar thinking, I don't actually know this person. 18 months later, I finally admitted I didn't want to. Why'd you stay that long? Inertia, fear of failure, hope that maybe if I tried harder, I'd start to feel something real. She laughed bitterly. Spoiler, I didn't. I kept thinking maybe the problem was me, that I was broken somehow, incapable of normal human connection. Douglas was objectively wonderful, successful, handsome, well-mannered. Every woman at the country club envied me, and I felt nothing. Just emptiness dressed up in Prada. When did you know it was over? Celeste was quiet for a long moment. 6 months in, we were at a charity gala, very upscale event. I'd spent hours getting ready, hair, makeup, the perfect dress. Douglas was giving a speech about corporate philanthropy, very polished, very impressive, and I looked around at all these people applauding, smiling, and I realized I couldn't remember the last time I'd had a genuine conversation with any of them, including my husband. What happened? I went to the bathroom and had a small breakdown. Nothing dramatic, just sat in a stall and cried very quietly for 15 minutes. Then I fixed my makeup, went back out, and pretended everything was fine for another year. She shook her head. That's what I was good at, pretending. What finally made you leave? He asked me that same question when I told him I wanted a divorce. What changed? He said. Nothing changed. That was the problem. Every day was identical. Same conversations, same routines, same polite distance. I woke up one morning and realized I'd rather be alone and honest than partnered and performing. How'd he take it? Better than I expected. I think he was relieved, honestly. We'd both been going through the motions. The divorce was remarkably civil. Lawyers, mediators, clean split. We even had lunch together after signing the papers. Very mature, very civilized. Her voice dropped, and completely hollow, like everything else in that marriage. They reached a cluster of rocks jutting into the surf. Ryan climbed up first, then offered Celeste his hand. She took it without hesitation. From the higher vantage point, they could see the entire beach curving away in both directions. The sun was touching the horizon now, bleeding gold and crimson across the water. I used to come here with my dad, Ryan said quietly, before he died. Sunday mornings. We'd sit on these rocks and he'd tell me stories about his Navy days. Most of them were probably exaggerated, some definitely false, but it didn't matter. It was our time. How old were you when he died? 17, heart attack. Same thing that killed your father, right? Celeste nodded. 22. Also sudden. Also devastating. Were you close? Not really. He was busy. I was difficult. After the cancer. After everything. I think he didn't know how to talk to me anymore. Like I'd become this fragile thing he was afraid of breaking. She drew her knees up. Your father sounds like he was actually present. He was, not perfect. Drank too much sometimes, had a temper, but he showed up. That counts. They sat in comfortable silence as the sun completed its descent. Other beachgoers filtered away, heading home for dinner. Can I ask you something personal? Celeste said. Haven't we already crossed that line? Fair point. She hesitated. Yesterday, the panic attack. You handled it really well, like you'd done it before. Ryan was quiet for a long moment. Hannah has anxiety. Started when she was 5. Nightmares. Panic episodes. Separation fears. We work with a child therapist. I've learned techniques. Does she still have them? Less frequently, she's doing better. He glanced at Celeste. But yeah, I recognized what was happening to you immediately. I'm sorry she has to deal with that. Me too. But she's learning to manage it. Learning she's stronger than her fear. Ryan smiled slightly. She's tougher than I am, honestly. I doubt that. The first stars appeared overhead. The beach was almost empty now. I should go, Celeste said, not moving. Thank you for suggesting it. Same time tomorrow? Ryan heard himself ask. She looked at him. You want to do this again? Unless you don't. I do, she admitted. That's what scares me. Why? Because this, she gestured between them. Whatever this is, it can't go anywhere, you know that, right? The CEO dating the janitor, it's not just optics, there are power dynamics, ethical concerns. My board would. This isn't dating, Ryan interrupted gently. This is two old friends reconnecting, talking, walking on a beach. Nothing inappropriate about that. Isn't it though? Celeste's voice was soft. Because I spent all day today thinking about seeing you, about this conversation, and that feels complicated. Ryan considered this. Yeah, it probably is complicated, but most worthwhile things are. Are you always this calm about everything? Absolutely not. I just hide the panic better. That made her laugh. That real unguarded laugh that reminded him of the girl from the photograph. They climbed down from the rocks, walked back across the sand toward the parking lot. At their cars, they paused. Same time tomorrow, Celeste said. It wasn't a question. I'll be here. She started toward her Tesla, then turned back. Ryan, what you said yesterday, about the girl in the photograph still being there, do you really believe that? I do. Why? Because I'm looking at her right now. Celeste's expression softened into something vulnerable and real. Good night, Ryan. Good night, Celeste. For the next week, they met every evening at Hanson's Beach. Same time, same spot. They walked for hours, talking about everything and nothing. Philosophy, work frustrations, childhood memories, dreams abandoned and dreams still alive. Celeste talked about the loneliness of leadership, the way success had isolated her, how every relationship felt transactional. Ryan talked about single parenthood, the constant juggling, the fear that he wasn't enough, the moments of pure joy when Hannah spontaneously hugged him or said something profound. They debated literature, music, the meaning of happiness, whether personal satisfaction or societal contribution mattered more. They disagreed frequently, Celeste arguing for individual achievement, Ryan for collective good, but their disagreements felt productive, energizing. On the fifth evening, Ryan brought his Harley instead of driving his old truck. Want to take a ride? He offered. Celeste stared at the motorcycle. I've never been on one. Perfect time to start. What about helmets? Ryan produced a spare from his saddlebag. I came prepared. She put it on, fumbling with the strap. Ryan reached over to adjust it, his fingers brushing her jawline. Their eyes met, held. Climb on behind me, he said, voice rougher than intended. Hold tight. Celeste settled onto the seat, her arms wrapping around his waist. The contact sent electricity through Ryan's nervous system. He started the engine. Ready? Absolutely not. Ryan smiled and eased the Harley forward. They rode north along the coastal highway as the sun set behind them. Wind whipped past. The ocean stretched endlessly to their right. Celeste's arms tightened around him with each curve. Ryan felt every point of contact. Her hands clasped at his stomach, her thighs pressed against his, the way she leaned into the turns after the first few hesitant moments. The Harley's engine rumbled beneath them, a living thing responding to his slightest adjustment. He took the long route, extending the ride, past the marina where sailboats rocked gently at their moorings. Through the tunnel carved into the hillside, their sound magnified into a roar, up the winding cliff road where the guardrail seemed inadequately small against the drop to the rocks below. Celeste didn't speak, didn't need to. He felt her tension give way gradually to something else. Not quite relaxation, there was too much adrenaline for that, but a kind of exhilarated surrender to the moment. The physical trust required to ride as a passenger struck Ryan as profoundly intimate. She'd put her safety entirely in his hands. One wrong move, one moment of inattention, and they'd both suffer the consequences. Yet she'd climbed on without hesitation. After 30 minutes, Ryan pulled into a scenic overlook, killed the engine. That was... Celeste removed her helmet, her hair wild. That was incredible. Better than a Tesla. Completely different. The Tesla feels safe, controlled. She laughed. That felt dangerous. It's not that dangerous. I'm a careful driver. I didn't mean the motorcycle. She met his eyes. I meant this. Us. Whatever we're doing. Ryan climbed off the bike. What are we doing, Celeste? I don't know. She stood as well, restless energy vibrating through her. I don't have words for it. We're not dating. But this isn't just friendship either. Does it need a label? Yes, maybe, I don't. She spun away, frustrated. I'm not good at ambiguity. I like clear categories, defined relationships. Life's messy, Ryan said. People are complicated. Not everything fits in boxes. That's a cop-out. Maybe, but it's true. Celeste turned back to face him. Tell me what you want. From this. From me. Be direct. Ryan held her gaze. I want to keep talking to you. Keep learning who you are now, not just who you were 10 years ago. He stopped. What? I want to matter to someone again, he admitted. Beyond Hannah, beyond job responsibilities, I want connection, the kind where someone actually sees you. All of you, the good and the shit you're ashamed of, and still chooses to stay. Celeste's expression cracked. That's what I want too. Then why does that scare you? Because I'm your boss. The words burst out. Because there's a massive power imbalance. Because if this goes wrong, and it probably will, you could lose your job, your insurance, your stability. And I won't be responsible for destroying your life. Ryan stepped closer. Do you think I haven't considered that? I don't know what you've considered. I'm a grown adult, Celeste. I'm capable of assessing risks and making informed decisions. You're not manipulating me. I'm here by choice. Choice implies equality. We're not equal. In terms of money, no. In terms of inherent worth as humans, absolutely equal. That's naive. That's philosophy, Ryan countered. And it's also true. Your bank account doesn't make you more valuable as a person. It just makes you wealthier. Those are different things. Celeste stared at him. You really believe that? I do. God. She pressed her hands to her face. You make it sound so simple. It is simple. We're just conditioned to make it complicated. Ryan moved closer. Listen, I understand your concerns. They're valid. But here's what I know. Meeting you again, talking with you these last few days, I feel more alive than I have in years. And I'm guessing you feel something similar, or you wouldn't keep showing up. I do, she whispered. I feel awake, like I've been sleepwalking and suddenly remembered how to actually live. Then let's not overthink it. Ryan reached for her hand. She let him take it. Let's just be here now. No labels, no 5-year plans, just two people who like talking to each other, taking it one day at a time. Celeste's fingers tightened around his. One day at a time, she repeated. I can do that. Good. They stood at the overlook as full darkness descended. Stars emerged overhead. Far below, waves crashed against rocks. I should tell you something, Celeste said quietly. About that summer. About why I never came back the next year. Ryan waited. It wasn't just because the season ended. It was because my parents forbade it. She stared out at the ocean. After we got home, I talked about you constantly. Ryan said this, or Ryan thinks that. My mother finally sat me down and told me in very clear terms that I was never to contact you again. That you were, how did she put it, inappropriately old and clearly motivated by our family money. Jesus, I was 14, she was my mother. I believed her. Thought maybe she was right. That you'd just been humoring the rich sick kid. Celeste's voice cracked. I convinced myself it had all been fake. That I'd imagined the connection. It wasn't fake, Ryan said firmly. I thought about you for years, wondered where you were, if you were okay, if you'd survived. I did survive. Obviously. She laughed hollowly. But that conversation with my mother, it taught me not to trust my own judgment, to second guess every connection, to assume people wanted something from me rather than actually wanting me. It's probably why I married Douglas. He was exactly what my parents would have chosen, safe, appropriate, empty. Ryan absorbed this. Your mother was wrong. About me. About my motives. I know that now. I think I knew it then, deep down. But knowing and believing are different things. Yeah, they are. Celeste turned to face him fully. I'm telling you this because I need you to understand. When I pulled back yesterday, when I freaked out about power dynamics and ethics, it's not really about that. It's about this voice in my head that's been telling me for 10 years that people don't actually want me. They want access, status, money, and I can't do that again. I can't survive another relationship where I give everything and discover it was all a performance. Celeste. Ryan took both her hands. Look at me. I don't want your money. I don't want access to your world. I want conversations at sunset. I want debates about the meaning of happiness. I want to hear you laugh like you did 10 years ago before everything got complicated. That's it. That's what I'm here for. Tears spilled down her cheeks. How do I believe that? Time, Ryan said gently. Give it time. Let me show you through consistency, through showing up, through not asking for anything except your company. She nodded slowly. Okay. One day at a time. One day at a time. The following weeks established a rhythm. Every evening after work they met at Hanson's Beach. Sometimes they walked, sometimes they rode the Harley, sometimes they just sat on the rocks and talked until full darkness forced them home. At the hotel they maintained strict professionalism. Celeste was the CEO, Ryan was maintenance staff. They never acknowledged their evening meetings, never made eye contact that lasted too long, but the knowledge hummed between them like an electrical current. Ryan's coworkers noticed the change in him. "You're different lately," his supervisor commented. "Happier? You get laid or something?" "Or something," Ryan replied neutrally. Hannah noticed too. "Dad, are you dating someone?" The question caught Ryan off guard. They were eating dinner. Spaghetti, Hannah's favorite. "What makes you ask that?" "You're on your phone more, and you smile at it, like it's saying something funny." Hannah twirled pasta around her fork. "Also, you've been wearing your good jeans, the ones without the stain." "I'm not dating anyone," Ryan said carefully, "but I did reconnect with an old friend." "What's their name?" "Celeste." "That's a pretty name. Like the color." "Exactly like the color." Ryan smiled. "She's complicated, smart, sad sometimes." "Why is she sad?" "She's lonely, even though she's surrounded by people all day." Hannah considered this. "That seems worse than being actually alone." "It is worse," Ryan agreed. "Being alone is just a fact. Being lonely in a crowd is torture." "You should invite her over," Hannah said decisively. "For dinner. I want to meet someone who makes you smile at your phone." Ryan's chest tightened. "Maybe someday. It's still new. Fragile." "Okay. But soon, though." Hannah returned to her spaghetti. "I'm good at meeting new people." "You are," Ryan confirmed. "The best." 3 weeks after their first beach walk, Celeste texted, "Can we talk? Somewhere private?" Ryan's stomach dropped. The phrasing felt ominous. "My place? Hannah has a sleepover tonight. Is that appropriate? We're both adults, and you need to see how normal people live. Your address?" Ryan sent it, then spent the next hour frantically cleaning. Not that his apartment was dirty. He kept it meticulously organized. But Celeste was coming to his actual home. That felt significant. She arrived at 8, still wearing her work clothes, royal blue blazer, but she'd removed her heels, replacing them with flats. "This is your place?" She stepped inside, looking around. "This is it. All 900 square feet." Ryan gestured. "Living room/dining room. Kitchen through that doorway. 2 bedrooms down the hall. Bathroom with decent water pressure. It's not much, but..." "It's perfect," Celeste interrupted. She moved to the bookshelf dominating one wall. "God, you actually have all these. What did you think? That I lied about studying philosophy?" "No, I just..." She touched the spine of a worn copy of Marcus Aurelius. "Most people who study philosophy don't keep the books. I reference them regularly." Ryan moved to stand beside her. "Meditations gets me through rough days." "Which parts?" "Book 2. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." Ryan smiled. "Helpful when you're cleaning up someone else's mess for the 3rd time in a week." Celeste pulled the book from the shelf, flipping through pages marked with notes and highlights. "You really engage with this stuff. It's not decorative, it's functional." He watched her. "You said you needed to talk. What's going on?" She set down the book. "I have to go to New York. Next week. Board meeting with our parent company. Probably be gone for 5 days." "Okay." Ryan waited for the rest. "And Celeste turned to face him fully. "I'm going to hate every second. The meetings, the dinners, the performative bullshit. And I realized today that the only thing making it bearable is knowing I can text you, talk to you, that you'll be here when I get back. I will be. That scares me," she said. "How much I need this. How much I need you. How, in 3 weeks you've become essential. And that's dangerous." Ryan moved closer. "Why is it dangerous?" "Because people leave. They always leave. My mother died when I was 23. My father died a year later. My ex-husband checked out emotionally before we even signed the divorce papers. Everyone I've ever..." She stopped. "Everyone leaves. I haven't left. Yet." "Celeste." Ryan cupped her face gently. "I'm not going anywhere. You're not a burden. You're not too much. This..." He gestured between them. "Whatever we're building, it's not fragile. It's real. And real things don't shatter the moment you stop watching them." "How can you be so sure?" "Because I've been exactly where you are. After my wife left, I was convinced I was fundamentally unlovable, that something about me drove people away. It took years to understand that her leaving had nothing to do with my worth. She was unhappy with herself, not me." Celeste closed her eyes. "I want to believe that." "Then believe it." Ryan's thumb brushed her cheekbone. "Trust me, trust this." When she opened her eyes, they were wet with tears. "I'm trying." "I know." They stood there for a long moment, foreheads nearly touching. "Can I stay?" Celeste whispered. "Just sit here. talk. I don't want to go back to that empty house. Of course. They moved to the couch. Ryan made tea. Nothing fancy, just Lipton with honey. They talked about nothing important. Books. Movies. The weird neighbor who practiced trumpet at midnight. At some point, Celeste's head drifted to Ryan's shoulder. Her breathing evened out. She fell asleep mid-sentence. Ryan didn't move, didn't wake her. He just sat there. This woman who carried the weight of so much responsibility, finally relaxed, finally at peace. She woke around midnight, disoriented. I fell asleep. God, I'm sorry. Don't apologize. You needed rest. I should go. You should stay, Ryan said. Take the bed. I'll sleep on the couch. Ryan, it's late. You're exhausted. I'm not letting you drive like this. He stood, pulling her up. Come on. He showed her to his bedroom. Nothing fancy. Just a queen bed with clean sheets and walls decorated with Hannah's artwork. Celeste sat on the edge of the mattress, looking small and lost. Thank you, she said quietly, for all of this. Anytime. She caught his hand as he turned to leave. Ryan, the thing I was most afraid to tell you, the real reason I broke down that first day, it wasn't just finding the photograph. Ryan waited. It was reading the note on the back, she continued. The note I'd written that summer, in my teenage handwriting. It said, "The boy who makes me feel alive. The summer I started living again." Her voice broke, and I realized that in the 10 years since I'd forgotten how to do that. To actually live. I'd been surviving, performing, but not living. And now? Ryan asked gently. Now I'm remembering. She looked up at him. Because of you. Ryan knelt down so they were eye level. You're remembering because you chose to. I'm just here. But the work, the courage to be real, that's all you. I don't feel courageous. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's doing the thing anyway. She smiled through tears. Philosopher janitor strikes again. Always. He squeezed her hand. Get some sleep. I'll be right outside if you need anything. But as he reached the door, Celeste's voice stopped him again. Ryan, that summer, on the last day before we left Clearwater, do you remember what you said to me? Ryan thought back. That final afternoon, the impending goodbye hanging over them. I told you that surviving wasn't enough, that you deserved to actually live. Yes, Celeste's voice was barely audible. And I told you that you'd try, Ryan finished, that you'd spend the rest of your life trying to do exactly that. I failed, she whispered. For 10 years I failed. You didn't fail, you just forgot. But now you're remembering. Ryan smiled softly. And that girl who wanted to live, she's still here, I promise. After he left, closing the door gently behind him, Ryan lay on the couch staring at the ceiling. Something fundamental had shifted between them. A truth acknowledged. A wall dissolved. Tomorrow Celeste would return to being the CEO. He'd return to being the janitor. But tonight they were just two people who'd found each other again against impossible odds. And in the morning when Ryan woke to find Celeste sitting at his kitchen table making coffee in yesterday's clothes, her hair messy and makeup free, looking more real than he'd ever seen her, that's when he finally admitted to himself what he'd been avoiding for weeks. He was falling in love with her, and from the way she smiled at him over the rim of her coffee cup, unguarded, genuine, alive, he was pretty sure she was falling too. The question wasn't whether they would fall, it was whether they'd survive the landing. Celeste returned from New York exhausted. 5 days of board meetings had drained her. The moment her plane landed, she texted, "Home. Can we meet tonight?" Response, Hanson's Beach, 7 p.m. She arrived early. The sun hung low over the water. Ryan's Harley pulled in exactly at 7, and the smile on his face made her chest crack open. You look exhausted, he said. 5 days pretending to care about market share when all I wanted was to be here. With you. They walked down to the beach, away from other people. Something happened in New York, Celeste said. My board member cornered me. Someone saw us here, took photos. He warned me about liability issues, harassment claims, bad optics. Ryan tensed. What now? I can't keep pretending this is just friendship. Celeste stopped walking. I'm in love with you. Completely terrifyingly in love with you. And I have no idea what to do about it. Ryan stared at her. Sunset painting his face in gold. I'm in love with you too, I have been for weeks. So what do we do? I quit, Ryan said simply. No power imbalance if I don't work for you. Just two people choosing each other. Ryan, the health insurance, Hannah. I'll find another job. Better paying ones exist. He took her hands. Celeste, it's a job. It's not worth losing you over. You'd do that? Absolutely. Ryan squeezed her hands. But I need to tell you something first. About that summer. Your mother offered me money to stay away from you. The world tilted. What? $5,000. She found me at the beach stand 2 days before you left Clearwater. Told me you were really sick. That I was a distraction from your recovery. That getting emotionally involved with someone would compromise your treatment. She said if I really cared about you, I'd disappear. Let you focus on getting better. Celeste pulled her hands free, taking a step back. She paid you? She tried. I didn't take the money. Ryan's voice was firm, steady. I told her that decision wasn't mine to make, that if you wanted distance, you'd have to tell me yourself. She got angry, said I was being selfish, that I was risking your life for teenage romance. But you never told me. You never mentioned any of this. You left the next day? I never got the chance. Ryan's voice softened. And honestly, part of me thought maybe she was right. You were 14 and fighting cancer. I was 18 and working 3 jobs, drowning in debt. What future did we have? Maybe letting you go was the kindest thing I could do. Tears streamed down Celeste's face. All these years, I thought you just moved on, found someone else. Forgot about the girl from the beach. Never. Ryan's voice cracked with emotion. I looked for you, Celeste. Tried to find you online. But Celeste from Clearwater isn't much to go on when you don't know someone's last name. And by the time I had the resources to search properly, hired a private investigator even, you were already married. I saw the wedding announcement in the business section. Celeste Davenport weds Douglas Whitmore. I remember standing in a coffee shop, staring at that photo of you in your wedding dress, thinking, good, she survived. She beat the cancer. She's living her life, that's what matters. I was miserable in that marriage, Celeste whispered. From the very first day. I know that now. Ryan stepped closer. But at the time I convinced myself I'd made the right choice, that you were better off without the complications I would have brought to your life. Celeste processed this revelation. Her mother, dead now for over a year, never able to answer for this betrayal, had tried to buy Ryan off, had lied to both of them, had poisoned that summer with her manipulation and control. She told me you were after our money, Celeste said quietly, that you were older, calculating, that I was naive to think someone like you actually cared about someone like me. God, Celeste. Ryan's eyes were wet. You were the brightest part of that entire nightmare year. My dad had just died. I was drowning in debt and grief and responsibility. And then there was you, this impossibly brave girl who talked about philosophy and laughed at my terrible jokes and made me remember that life could still be beautiful even when it was so hard. You were never naive. You saw me. Really saw me. And I saw you too. The honesty in his voice destroyed the last of her defenses. I hate that we lost all that time. Me too, but we have now. We have right now. Celeste wrapped her arms around him. He held her tightly, one hand cradling her head. I'm quitting Monday, Ryan said. 2 weeks' notice. Then we do this right. No hiding. My board will lose their minds. Let them. You're the majority shareholder. He cupped her face. Do you want this, really? Because I'm all in. But you need to choose me too. I do, I choose you. I choose us. Ryan smiled and kissed her. Soft at first, then deeper. They'd avoided this for weeks. Now it felt like relief, like coming home. Come home with me, he said when they broke apart. Meet Hannah properly. She's been asking about you. You told her? She figured it out, too smart. She wants to meet you, make sure you're good enough for Dad. They walked to the parking lot hand in hand. At their cars, Ryan kissed her again, unashamed. Follow me. Hannah was waiting at the apartment door when they arrived, practically vibrating with excitement. She'd changed into what was clearly her best dress, pink with white flowers, and her blonde hair was pulled back in careful pigtails. You're Celeste, she announced the moment they walked through the door. Dad said you have really pretty blonde hair and he wasn't lying at all. Hannah, Ryan tried for stern and failed completely. What? It's true. Hannah turned back to Celeste, beaming. I made cookies. Dad helped, but mostly I did it myself. They're chocolate chip. Do you like chocolate chip? Everyone likes chocolate chip, but I always ask to be polite. I love chocolate chip, Celeste said, completely charmed despite her nervousness. Good. Come on. Hannah grabbed Celeste's hand without hesitation and tugged her toward the kitchen. I want to show you my ocean books. Dad says you run a really big hotel by the water, so you probably see the ocean all the time like me. They settled at the small kitchen table with warm cookies on a plate between them. Hannah showed Celeste her collection of marine biology books, explaining in enthusiastic detail the differences between various species of sharks, her favorite being the hammerhead because they look like tools, but they're actually animals, which is so cool. Ryan made coffee and just watched them, his daughter and the woman he loved, talking like it was the most natural thing in the world. Hannah asked questions without shyness. Celeste answered each one seriously, never talking down to her, never pretending to know something she didn't. "Okay, kiddo," Ryan said eventually, glancing at the clock. "Bedtime. School tomorrow." "But Dad," Hannah started to protest. "Bedtime. You know the rules." Hannah sighed dramatically but obeyed like she'd been expecting this. Before heading to her room, she stopped in front of Celeste and looked up at her with serious eyes. "Will you come back to visit?" "If your dad invites me, absolutely." "Good." Hannah threw her arms around Celeste's waist in a quick, fierce hug. "I like you. You don't talk to me like I'm stupid or boring. You actually listen. That's because you're not stupid or boring," Celeste said simply, returning the hug. "You're brilliant and interesting." After Ryan tucked Hannah in, a process that involved 2 stories and multiple negotiations about whether she could keep reading under the covers, he returned to find Celeste standing at his bookshelf again, running her fingers along the worn spines of his philosophy texts. "She's wonderful," Celeste said quietly, not turning around. "She likes you. That's huge. She doesn't warm up to people easily." Ryan moved behind Celeste, wrapping his arms around her waist. "Is this okay? Me? Hannah? The instant family package deal?" Celeste leaned back against him, fitting perfectly into the circle of his arms. "It's more than okay. It's—" She paused, searching for the right words. "It's everything I didn't know I needed. Everything I didn't know was missing." They stood like that for a long moment, wrapped in each other and the quiet of the apartment. Through the wall, they could faintly hear Hannah singing softly to herself in her room. "I should go," Celeste said eventually, though she didn't move. "Let you both rest. Or you could stay," Ryan suggested. "Guest room. Hannah would be thrilled to make you breakfast in the morning. Fair warning, though, she takes her pancake duties very seriously." Celeste turned in his arms, looking up at him. "Are you sure?" "I'm sure about everything when it comes to you." 3 months later, Ryan had a new job at a competing hotel. Better pay, better hours. Celeste had weathered the board's concerns and the media's fascination with her unconventional relationship. Most of the noise had died down when people realized there was no scandal. Just 2 people who genuinely liked each other. They were at Hanson's Beach again. Same spot, different circumstances. "Do you ever regret it?" Celeste asked. "Quitting, the upheaval." "Never." Ryan pulled her close. "Best decision I ever made. Even with all the complications? Especially with the complications. Easy things aren't usually worth doing." He kissed the top of her head. "Besides, I got you. And Hannah got someone who actually listens when she explains marine biology. That's worth any amount of difficulty." Celeste smiled against his chest. "I love you. I love you too." The sun set over the Pacific, painting the sky in impossible colors. They stood together at the water's edge, finally free to just be. No hiding, no performance. Just 2 people who'd found each other twice, against all odds, and chosen to stay. The girl from the photograph had come back to life, and this time she wasn't going anywhere.